creative coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it's both my mission and my pleasure to highlight my creative journey, so that way you can be inspired, hopefully, you can get some takeaways, and ultimately make your journey a little bit easier. Now, before I fully get into things, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So, let's get into it. One really exciting thing that happened last week was we had finally an in-person screening of my first feature film with the cast and crew. You know, we'd never done that. In fact, there's some people that have never seen the movie. And, you know, the reason for that was because we pretty much finished it, you know, a little bit like the beginning of March. And that was when I was starting to look at, okay, you know, can we have a screening? And then, of course, things shut down. And, you know, it just wasn't possible. And, you know, the movie went through a couple of film festivals and it was available to view that way. And some people did watch it that way. But, you know, we were, you know, obviously the pandemic hits people differently. But nonetheless, like, you know, in that sense, we were robbed of that experience of getting to watch it collectively, you know. And so I made it a point in 2021. I was like, you know what, even if we have to do it at like someone's house or whatever, like we'll just watch it together. Like just come collectively and just enjoy the work that everyone put in that's evident on screen. And so, you know, my friend has a screening room in the apartment that he lives. You know, it's part of his building. It's not his screening room. It's, you know, it's like no different than having a gym, right? And so I was like, hey, can we utilize it? And, you know, we'll have an intimate group, you know, it won't be that big, but we'll do it. And, you know, so I invited the primary cast, the primary crew, and ultimately not everyone could make it, you know, just by the nature of it. Some people are out of town or something like that. But the core group was able to come overall, and it was just a fun night, you know. And in that sense, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, you know, those moments are really special, and they deserve, you know, you put all this hard work into something. I don't care what it is, right? And it deserves acknowledgement and just kind of that moment to pause, really admire it, praise it, and be like, okay, you know, like the thing that I was working towards, and, you know, possibly we were all working towards, right? If you're doing more of a collaborative project, it deserves that moment to really shine and recognize and so forth. And so at the end of the film, we kind of went around, shared some fun stories of making it. And then what was nice, you know, everyone kind of felt this sense of camaraderie because, you know, not everyone really interacted with each other, you know. The movie is kind of splintered off where different characters are doing different things. And certainly, you know, some of the crew, you know, they were kind of more behind the scenes rather than on set. And, you know, then the crew that was on set didn't act necessarily with, you know, the people that were kind of helping organize and all this stuff, right? So this was really the first time we all came together in that way, and we're able to have that collective bond. And then at the end of it, you know, it just hit me like, let's go around and kind of share what everyone else is up to, you know, and it was just really inspiring to hear what everyone was kind of doing, you know. And I think, because I think, you know, you might relate to this. In the past year, you know, you get these mixed signals of, you know, you have all this free time, quote unquote, so you should be doing something. And if you didn't, then you'd never lack free time, yada, 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 which of course is untrue necessarily. And even if you have kind of are able to, you know, motivate yourself and have the luxury of that, given this past year, you know, it can be very lonesome. You know, it's like, okay, well, who am I doing this for? And there's a lot of conflicting thoughts and like, you know, stuff like that. It can be, you know, just by the nature of it, sort of hard, right? For lack of a better term. And And so, initially kind of when people are going around, it's like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and there's a little bit of trepidation. But then as collectively everyone's saying something, it uplifted the whole group. And, because people were encouraging, it's like, oh, that seems really cool, and this and that. And, if you're looking for this, I can help you out there. And it became this collective way of everyone helping each other, right? And even if it seemed like there was a couple of things that weren't really seemingly related into the creative space, right? And yet there was a way for people to collaborate, and it was beneficial and so forth. So I don't know, it was just nice. And I think, I'm glad, like, it wasn't something that I planned on it, but it just felt very natural. And in hindsight, yeah, like, why not? Whenever you have a group of people together, let them shine and let them express what they're working on, even if it's not creative. And there's ways for everyone. There was just so much goodwill that everyone just wanted to help each other no matter what it was. And the tide rose collectively, so to speak, because everyone was willing to help each other. And that was really cool. I'm glad that was a byproduct of the whole event, in addition to seeing the movie. And, just in terms of the movie itself, like, it was great to hear laughter, in certain moments that were funny, that like, it's not intended to be a comedy, but there's definitely levity within it. And so it was great. And I think people did have a good time, so it felt really special. So, the takeaway for you is honor those moments, really, because they don't come often, and certainly, as was the case in terms of mine, you can go through this whole thing and then the pandemic hits, and, you have to kind of postpone it for a while. It's certainly not what we envisioned, when, initially back then I was looking at renting a theater and, allowing people, like, maybe having like 50 people, and, allowing crew members and cast members to bring plus ones and yada, yada, yada. This was very limited, to like 12 people. And so initially, there was no plus ones and things like that. And you kind of feel bad about that. But of course, you're just following sort of protocol in that sense, in terms of the building. And, because I didn't, the last thing I need to be doing is getting my friend evicted, right? By jam-packing a screening room unnecessarily. So, but it worked out. It worked out, and it was a fun time. So that's that. Now, my upcoming film, my second feature film, that has yet to film, we're working on that. And we had a really good production meeting, so a couple weeks ago I've been talking about how I've been creating a shot list and so forth. So, we got together, the production team and so forth, and we really talked about, okay, kind of my methodology, just the overview of, how I want to shoot, how I want things to look, and the process really of it. And it was just a jumping off point, now that we do have the shot list and so forth, and we've seen rehearsals and yada, yada, yada. So we, talked about the various methods of, okay, let's, now that this is how we want to establish the end product of how we're going to be filming it, right? This is the process we're trying to get to. Let's make sure during the rehearsals we're layering that now so people get used to how we will be filming, make it as a game situation, to borrow from sports, as possible, and so it's like, okay, cool. And in that sense, I have been thinking about, okay, now as we continue rehearsals, making it more like them. The other thing that we've, I was thinking, we've done a lot of rehearsals within apartments, right? And that's been good. However, a lot of scenes take place outside, a lot of it with walking, and you just don't have that space within an apartment. So moving forward, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take them outside, and I want them getting used to those elements of, people looking at them, having to really be like in the moment, and rather than thinking about the lines, because right now we're still, reading off the lines from paper or tablets, whatever it may be. So I want them just free of that and loose, in like almost not thinking, right? It's like a great athlete. The best athletes are the ones that go into the zone. I want them in the zone, and by getting them outside of certain elements, hopefully that'll do it. So we'll see. We have a rehearsal this Thursday, and I'm going to employ some of these techniques, and we'll kind of see how it goes. But I think that'll be interesting, So yeah. The other aspect we've been working on is costuming. So everyone was supposed to get me a first draft of their wardrobe, like what they have versus what they don't, based off of like inspiration that I had come up with, on a scene by scene basis. So that came in, and I circled the stuff that I liked, gave some notes about like, okay, hey, let's change this up, maybe mix and match this. So yeah, that's kind of the way we've been progressing forward. And yeah, just kind of moving forward in that sense. Last week, I posted a fun little parody, of like, so I parodied a Deadline article, and I called it Headline. And then I put, the 5 actors along with like a picture of Bogota just to match it, with 6, as opposed to just 5. And, it was like, autumn into fall cast on, ensemble announced, blah, blah, blah. And it had all of them. So yeah, it was kind of fun. And a lot of people, commented, and it was great for them to see the actors that will be involved, so like Khalil Abdelrahim, he was in my first film, as was Sarah Stretton. So they're coming back, not in the same roles, obviously, but as actors. Then Veronica Pierre Dihita, she's a newcomer to me. Like she's a wonderful actress, but she came through to me through Crystal McLaughlin. Crystal is someone that I've worked with a couple of times now. She's in my short film called Playtest, and she also helped me behind the scenes on my first feature film. And we've always wanted to work together in a greater capacity. So she's always wonderful with connecting me to people, but then also she herself is an amazing actress. So now bring her into that fold. And then Andrew Guy as this character named Neil. So that kind of rounds out the 5 main characters within the film, and so it was fun to kind of see that. Now, for more like information about the people, the movie itself, you can check out our crowdfund. We're at the time of this recording, we're 12 days away from it ending. So it would mean a lot to all of us, collectively, if you checked it out, if you had a chance to contribute. We've really tried to come up with cool, fun things as rewards for doing so, across the various tiers. So please, don't hesitate. I know money can be tight, especially right now. So don't do it if it puts you in a financial burden. But if that is the case, then at least just share it. That would mean the world to us. And if you can contribute financially, even if it's like $1, that's certainly it does help, right? It all adds up. It really does. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but it does add up. So yeah, that's that movie. We're working on a script rewrite, which is going well. We're gonna have more rehearsals, and yeah, just kind of moving forward on that. So it's exciting. Anyway, the other thing that I think I've talked about this in the past, but I just love the way the Mandalorian films. And if you're unfamiliar, I've linked to a video that kind of explains it. But basically, it's like this giant dome, and with like screens, right? Essentially all around, and they can create any sort of background. So they can render out a realistic background. in that way. So they don't have to film against green screen, which makes it a lot easier because the lighting becomes much more natural. You don't have to like worry about, you know, keying out weird green spill, what they call, right? And so forth. And it's just better because people have something to react to instead of just seeing green screen all around them. And it's just really fascinating, right? And so it's something that my friends and I have joked about, like, hey, we should do something like this, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, sometimes I just like to go down the rabbit hole of this kind of stuff. And so I was like, what would that cost, right? Because of course, you know, it's not like I can do this tomorrow or even next year, but the idea of just having something to aim for, right? Like a specific goal, you know, anyone will say like, that's how you need to go about it. Otherwise, you know, you never accomplish your goals. You need that final goal to shoot for, and then you can kind of backtrack it from there. And so, you know, I was talking with my friends. I was like, what would this cost? Like, you know, just so we have a ballpark number, you know, forget like the personnel involved, just pure equipment cost. Like, what would that be? And, you know, we kind of looked at it and so forth. And the number we had come to was anywhere between 2 million to 5 million, just purely for like computers, monitors, you know, lighting, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, okay, you know, and certainly that's a good chunk of change. Certainly that's not money that we have, but at least it's a number. It's a solid number that's like, oh, okay, now we know, as opposed to being this, you know, nebulous thing that we just don't know. And, you know, I don't know how we get there and so forth, but at least like it's in the back of our minds of like, this is how much it costs. And if we ever wanted to do this, that's what we would need to somehow come up with. And like I said, I mean, it's just, you know, I don't know, you know, maybe it'll happen in 10 years, maybe it'll happen in 20 years, but it's something. It's a vision, it's a dream, you know, it gives you a much more straighter path as opposed to just meandering, right? So, I don't know, it was a fun exercise for me. And so, you know, the takeaway for you is, you know, figure out what is that like pie in the sky dream, and then just kind of figure out like, what would that actually cost? And yeah, it's going to be a lot. And, you know, it's in the moment, like if you're trying to accomplish it for tomorrow, it's going to seem insurmountable, but you know, you don't have to do it by tomorrow. Like, you know, just start somewhere, right? You know, take that first step and you know, like deconstructing it really is a good first step. It was for us, you know. So hopefully in 10 years we'll have this, or 20. Who knows? We'll see. And that's the other thing, kind of tied in with that, is that a lot of us just don't like work in progress. Right? You know, and the reason I bring this up specifically is because I have a friend, you know, that was moving, and it was like everything had to be like done, like in their mind, it's like, you know, all or nothing, right? And it's like, you know what, you literally just moved in. It's going to take a while to settle in, and like, it's not going to happen overnight. So just relax and understand that, like, you know, currently it's a work in progress. You know, this is not how the apartment's going to be while you're there and so forth. Like, it'll take a week to really settle into the place. And even then, you know, afterwards, you'll kind of accumulate other things and switch up things, you know, just by the sheer nature of it. So, you know, but for some reason, at least from my experience, a lot of us have a hard time just with work in progress, you know. So it ties into the Mandalorian video dome in that way, because like, it's like, oh, now I have this idea, now I gotta go do it. And if you know, if it hasn't happened right away, then it's like, oh, it's not good enough or whatever. It's like, no, you know, if, you know, let's just hypothetically say like one of the first steps is, okay, you know, getting this awesome computer, cool. And I've got this awesome computer. All right, great. Now I've got this, so it's a work in progress. Now I've got this really awesome computer that I can utilize in the meantime and so forth. And maybe, you know, instead of building a whole dome, now, you know, the next step is to kind of come up with, you know, just like a 5x7 wall, you know, that I can utilize and so forth. And that could be cool, right? Along with that computer. So it's all a work, and, you know, we're always building towards something, and that cliche of like, it really is about the journey. Enjoy the journey, because too often within our careers we're trying to skip these steps, but A, it's not possible. B, even if it was, by skipping them, you skip out on the lessons you need to learn along the way. I'm a firm believer we're exactly where we need to be. Sure, like, yes, a lot of us have those grand ambitions and things like that. And that's great, because they gave us something to aim for. But just because you're not where you want to be, doesn't mean you're not where you're supposed to be, or that like you can't work towards those goals. You can, little by little. And that's it. Just keep doing it. Simple as that. Anyway, let's leave on that note. I think that's a good note to leave on. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I hope this was beneficial. As always, you can ask questions or thoughts, add thoughts of your own, whether down in the comment section or hit me up on social media at Svitek. I would love to converse with you. It can be about anything that I talked about. It could be about anything that I didn't talk about, right? It doesn't have to pertain to this necessarily. So thank you. I appreciate you, and hope to see you next time.